by 2025, our original prediction is we get to $50 billion in marketplace revenue. Again, we think this year is about 15 billion. It's accelerating 100% or more year on year, while the rest of the economy is tapering off to more like 30 or 50% growth. We now think that by 2026, this will be a $100 billion channel, which will represent about 10% of our overall B2B software spend. This year, folks have kind of moved beyond, hey, I want to hang up a shingle in marketplace where buyers can find me and transact, and I can draw down some committed spend. And they've moved beyond, I want to co-sell. And they've matured to say, this all needs to be part of the same flywheel. And when I do all those things together, I'll have faster sales cycles, larger deal sizes, improved close rates.
Learn how to master cloud marketplaces in just 5 weeks with our cohort course. Accelerate your growth by tapping into the $300+ billion cloud spend that enterprises have committed to AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Discover the future of go-to-market with Roman. During 10 weekly sessions, you'll learn how to leverage this fast-growing channel and network with top industry experts and partnership leaders. We will dive into marketplace strategies, internal buy-in, building relationships with the cloud, and mastering co-sell. Join our upcoming cohort.
I'm really excited to have the session today with Tackle team. I think Tackle team obviously is the best team in the cloud go-to-market. They've been doing this report on cloud go-to-market over the last 4 years, I believe. They just released new version of report, and I'm really excited to not only ask Sanjay to present the report, but also go deeper into the discussion. Like, what are the questions sort of behind the questions? What are the findings that they didn't expect? What this kind of trends looks like? Just quickly, Sanjay Mehta is Chief Cloud Officer of Tackle.io, and he's been in business development and alliances for many, many years, thought leader in cloud go-to-markets. Sanjay, excited to hear your kind of thoughts on the reports and kicking off the discussion. I'm curious, what are the things that you learned from this year reports that you didn't expect to learn?
One thing that jumped off the page this year was really around the maturity of how ISVs are looking at cloud partnerships. And I'll paint the picture a bit on what we saw in 21 and 22 compared to this year, and how we see that maturity happening. And we're seeing a similar level of maturity in the cloud providers themselves, and how they're approaching the problem. And together, we think that presents a great opportunity where we're moving from, programs and specific widgets for specific things to a much more holistic approach and view. So that was the biggest change in terms of theme from the last couple of years to this year. Tackle was founded in 2016, so we've been in and around the marketplace game, if you will, for quite a while. And we really started the company to help ISVs innovate and evolve the way they buy and sell software with B2B buyers. So in the early days, like any other market, was really around the true innovators, of trying to explore the potential of cloud and the potential of teaming up with cloud providers. Today, we're really past that point, and a lot of ground has been laid. So ISVs starting on the journey today can find some recipes and best practices, which is great. And we think, in general, cloud marketplaces have gone pretty mainstream. We predict that this year, $15 billion of total B2B software will flow through these clouds. The entire B2B software market is closer to 800 billion. So, low single-digit percentages still today, but the best software companies on the planet are selling through this motion, and the best buyers, the largest enterprise buyers, medium business buyers are also showing up all around the globe to buy. So we think it really has hit the mainstream. And what we're hearing from ISVs now, 2/3 of the respondents this year said advancing cloud partnerships is actually a key business driver within their corporation. And that's a big shift, right? For years and years, this was an alliances-led motion, and now we're seeing CROs and CFOs really come to the party, right? And this is now a discussion around the C-suite. It's a discussion in boardrooms of how are you building your partnerships with the biggest 3 cloud providers and some of the biggest companies on the planet to accelerate your go-to-market. Other key indicators are CrowdStrike, if you follow them, big cloud security company, announced on October 23rd that $1 billion of revenue has flown through the AWS marketplace for them, which is truly awesome. And then earlier this year, Wiz talked about cloud marketplaces. Wiz is one of the fastest growing startups ever. And they said their path to $100 million was accelerated through cloud marketplaces. So some awesome proof points there. But one of the myths, I think, was cloud go-to-market was for startups, startup sellers and young buyers, if you will, smaller buyers. And that really isn't true at all. 50% of respondents in this year's survey were actually companies greater than $100 million in revenue. And 30% of respondents were doing more than 500 million. So folks that have really crossed the chasm in terms of being large organizations. And at Tackle, we're working with some of the largest companies on the planet as they look to uncover whether it's infrastructure or business applications or vertical industries, multi-billion-dollar companies that are now starting to explore how they can take advantage of these cloud marketplaces. So with all that said, the reality is we're still really early. Marketplace is a journey, and this go-to-market motion with cloud is becoming a substrate for software companies, like in the overall go-to-market motion. And this year we made a pivot. In previous years, this was called the Cloud Marketplace Report. And this year we turned it to the State of Cloud Go-to-Market Report. And we did that for a couple of reasons. The main one being the components that are coming together. So we're seeing more and more ISVs leverage data and the power of data and AI to figure out what are the right deals to take through this route to market versus traditional direct or channel motions. We're seeing co-sell really come to life, and I'll share some data on how ISVs are seeing real benefit in collaboration and top of funnel. And then the last piece of marketplace is getting more and more tightly integrated and plugged in. So we surveyed this year in the report to find out, in this climate change from growth at all costs to capital efficient growth, what are your top operating challenges? 70% said improving sales productivity was a top challenge. And we're hearing more and more from ISVs that when they look at cloud go-to-market, they're starting to see this as the most sales efficient way to close deals. I can close deals faster. I can close deals that are larger by tapping budgets that already exist. I can collaborate with the clouds. I can cut down on legal cycles. I can streamline vendor onboarding, like all these benefits to drive a more sales efficient process. 58% are looking to open new routes to market. 55% driving go-to-market efficiency specifically, and 54% hitting their ARR targets, which makes you wonder what the other 46% are planning on doing, maybe exceeding their targets. But so cloud go-to-market is a part of this story, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger part of the overall future of the go-to-market motion. So with that, I'll jump into some of the learnings from this report, and then we'll spend just a bit of time on one big prediction at the end.
Last year, you had 44% people focusing on cloud go-to-markets as a driver for 10% of revenue, right? And this year, this dropped to 20-something%. Like, why do you think this?
It's really interesting what we're seeing, and I'll share a maturity model later on is how ISVs, how we advise ISVs look at what they should expect in terms of revenue creation. The first thing I'd say, Roman, is you really need to look at a company and look at what part of your company's business is actually appropriate for cloud go-to-market. Because not everything, like hardware, for instance, not really the most well-suited thing for this channel. So you have to look and say, of the things I'm selling, I was in the security business, endpoint security, not the best thing for this channel. Cloud security, absolutely the right thing for the channel. So I think you have to look at where do things fit within your overall business that are most appropriate, and then measure that. We see in the first 18 months, like a goal of 5% of revenue, 5 to 10% of revenue is actually a pretty reasonable goal. And if you set those expectations too lofty and you don't take care of the cross-functional nature of this motion, you'll end up short of those goals. And it's really important to set that table correctly with the C-suite in the beginning, so people understand the investment, they understand what it's going to take, they understand the ongoing commitment. So, we're seeing more and more ISVs go into this market, so that's definitely pulling down the percentages a bit, just because of so many new entrants. But we're equally seeing more and more companies doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue and 15, 20, 30% of their overall, appropriate solutions flowing through these cloud marketplaces.
Thanks so much for answering the question. Let's move on.
Yeah, before we look at these results, I wanted to look back a little bit. So if you go back to 2021, we asked folks, why are you doing cloud go-to-market? What are you hoping to get out of this? And in 2021, it was really a marketplace-focused lens, where 82% of folks said, we're trying to access committed cloud spend. And if you think back to 2021, that's when I certainly saw lots of ISVs really understanding these concepts of EDPs and Max and Google commitments, and how to talk to their sellers about co-selling to navigate to those budgets, to talk to those folks who own that cloud spend and to draw down those committed agreements. And then 77% very aligned said, hey, I want to access the budgets, then I want to streamline my procurement, right? I want to move faster. I want to cut down on some of the things I talked about previously in terms of just establishing yourself as a vendor. And then in 2022, we actually saw the opposite. We saw a hard pivot from a marketplace-focused lens to a co-sell focused lens, where 74% of respondents, 74, said, we want to unlock the power of co-sell. And 72% said, we're really trying to advance our overall partnership with the cloud providers. This year, and I talked about it with Roman's opening question, folks have kind of moved beyond, hey, I want to hang up a shingle in marketplace where buyers can find me and transact, and I can draw down some committed spend. And they've moved beyond, I want to co-sell, and they've matured to say, this all needs to be part of the same flywheel. Like, I need to use data to figure out what cloud to align with. Then I need to co-sell to truly align with that cloud, or at least raise visibility and help build my brand, and gradually hope that I prime the pump to start getting some deals back as well. And then fulfill those transactions in the marketplace. And when I do all those things together, I'll have faster sales cycles, larger deal sizes, improved close rates, and everything will be great. So that holistic thinking on kind of how to build with, market with, and then sell with the clouds are really driving true business transformation and revenue transformation inside of organizations. So in 2023, the number one reason ISVs said they're selling through marketplaces is to really advance the overall cloud partnership at 63%. The interesting thing to us is the clustering, right? Like you don't see the 80% figures anymore. The clusters are getting tight where folks are really trying to tap into all the rich benefits and incentives and programs and access that the cloud providers are now delivering. And I'll talk about a maturity model a little bit later, but we find that companies in different revenue stages also have different goals in their go-to-market strategy. So for companies less than 10 million, it's really all about customer demand, right? Like, how am I getting up? How am I getting out of the gates? And how can I simplify procurement, right? I'm building my organization. I'm relatively small. I've got some smart people, but I'm not highly skilled at this. Like, how can I make this all a bit easier? And how can I start to open up my first channels, right? The typical company less than 10 million, your founders are your best salespeople, then your CEOs are your best salespeople, then you hire some very evangelistic salespeople. And a marketplace is really very likely the first channel they might try. For growth ISVs, so kind of 11 million to 100 million bucks, it's all about acceleration. I want to do deals faster. I want to simplify processes. I want to prepare to scale. I'm trying to find my winning patterns and my winning recipes that I can replicate. So velocity, simplifying purchasing and starting to scale your cloud programs. And then for organizations at $100 million plus, hopefully many folks on this call are enjoying that level of success now. You're at scale, and the pivot moves towards really focusing on cloud incentives and cloud access there. How do I tap into those cloud budgets? How do I leverage the programs of the cloud providers? There's some really rich incentives, cash credits, this and that help my buyers buy, help my sellers sell, help me pay my people, help pay the cloud people. So you're meeting your customers where you are, and you're really trying to tap into that demand and sell bigger deals at higher velocities as well. We see a lot of ISVs make some pretty critical early mistakes. And in the early days, and I'll talk about the maturity model, like this motion is generally led by somebody in alliances, maybe just with one cloud. But if you don't get the C-suite buy-in early, your journey is going to be limited. So we encourage all ISVs to really sit down, have the conversation with the C-suite, make sure the CRO, most importantly, is bought in. It's going to be a big tax on the sales organization. It's going to be a big hit to sales operations to learn these new ways to market. The benefits are massive, but the investment upfront is also really substantial.